May I ask, what is the ego in relation to awareness and self? The ego is just an illusion whereby awareness identifies with the body, and then the mind itself becomes a thought of the body. So you develop an idea of yourself. The subject, I, is the ego, and the ego in relation to awareness is awareness getting lost in the mind, awareness identifying with the body and getting lost in what arises out of the body, which is the mind. The mind then becomes the thought of the thing. So you become this subject idea. That's the ego. So the ego is an illusion in relation to awareness, is a distortion where awareness itself, in its superimposition on the mind, becomes a thought for itself, the body, a thought, I am the body, for instance. That's the ego. And and again, it's avoidant. It's avoidant of true relationship. It's what I'm talking about. The return to true. Hold on, my mic's company. True relationship. Hold on. Sorry. Sec. Well, it's gone back. The ego. See, the ego again is a distortion. It's not something we can look at and separate and say that's the ego and that's bad. Don't touch it. Because the reality of the ego, because it's distortion, at its root, there's no distortion. At the root of illusion, at the root of ego, there's no distortion. There is just this pure consciousness. Okay. But the custom of the ego is to employ the mind, using the emotions, using the body sensations. In that custom, there's a strange possessiveness that avoids awareness being the root source of consciousness. So when consciousness awakens, you could say the ego awakens. I know that's possibly not a good thing to say out loud, but the essential nature of the ego is consciousness. There's nothing separate from consciousness. When consciousness awakens, it's just the remembering of awareness within itself as is, without any inference. This is how we overcome the ego, through simply remaining as awareness. There's no other way. You can't fight the ego. You can't change it. You can't, from being egotistical, you can't develop an idea of being less egotistical. It's all ego, all of it. Only awareness is not. Only awareness when it's released from its attachment to the mind. And what does that mean, attachment to the mind? It means no longer feeling qualified or no longer feeling defined by, say, a thinking or an emotional feeling. That doesn't define you anymore. It's there. You're the root source of experience, but awareness remains unqualified. See, this is waking up to essential nature. But it all comes, and to make it simple, the whole process of this has come from where you've identified with the body. And this is natural in life. We identify with the body. But we're meant to let go. We're meant to awaken as awareness. We're meant to, at some stage in life, awareness is able to differentiate itself from your thinking and from your emotional feeling. And it's able just to be here in the moment. But for some reason, a lot of people get arrested at this point, especially in the West, but everywhere really. So awareness at some point is able to distinguish itself from your thing. And at some point, you'll then no longer define yourself by your thinking patterns and your emotional patterns. You'll start to see, that was all my nurtured self. That's how I learned to, fulfill my needs, to develop a personal self with boundaries, to be a body or whatever. But then suddenly you wake up to something that expands beyond that, and that's not qualified by that. And then from that, we begin to experience life in a different way, in a different way. And what the ego's done for us, what it's done is said to us, basically, it says you are a body. So what happens then is the main agency of all existence then becomes whatever you feel in the body. And what you feel in the body is often just a disturbance or an attraction. It's something that either opens or closes through genetic, through instinct, and you'll react to that. You'll meet those openings and closes with mental and emotional patternings. You'll develop a sense self, a personal self, which is required. But you're meant to outgrow that. You're meant to outgrow that. So it's all through just identifying with the body, really. So once you're able to see that the mental and the emotional patterns are just reactions to the body, you can then let go of them and allow the body sensations to come inward to awareness. And once you're able to do this, this is where you pay attention. Okay. Instead of losing yourself to a mental possession or emotional possession, emotional thinking, whatever you want to call it, claiming the experience, you want to savor everything as awareness, let everything in, and experience everything from that standpoint of an open heart, of pure honesty of existence, And then those forms change. They come away from the possessiveness of the mind, the attachment, the identification to the mind, the tension that it creates. To maintain that identification starts to go through dissolution, because you yourself is dissolution. Your forms begin to come inward to what is seeing. And then this top-heavy mental and emotional possession can fall away, so that after time, in your meditation, in your sadhana, or in your just beingness, you'll start to really just stay with what you feel in the body. Very important. Because there's nothing you can do about that. The body is innocent, there's no narrative. But the thing is, from the ego standpoint of view, we've sown those feelings with lots of seeds. So whenever you feel something in the body, it will be as quick as a flash, will arise into a mental and emotional possessiveness. When that happens, you can just remain in dissolution and really allow the pull of identification to dissolve, to undo, to reveal, to allow then, instead of the emotions going into the mind, to come back into the body, to the very origin, which is the body. Okay, so once it comes to the origin of the body, you can then pay attention to what that is, You can see it from consciousness, get to the root of that narrative, which is in the body. Okay. And also it's the same with the thinking, a lot of the thinking. If you look at your thinking and you look at whatever's going through your mind, there's always a correlation with the emotional. They correlate always. So, this is where, you think happy thoughts and you'll start to feel a happy energy. But again, this is just playing around with energy. This is just your mental and emotional structures. That's not necessarily the real feeling. The real feeling is the vibration in the body,